I gave up my nursing dream to care for my mom, spent 6 years and over $100,000 saving her life. Then found out she called me a desperate failure on a live stream. I have the receipts. And when she asked, after everything I've done for you, I finally told her everything. Buckle up. You can call me Sadie Sullivan. I am 35 years old, and I have been discreetly covering my mother's medical expenses for the last 5 years, since she was diagnosed with rheumatoid arthritis. I had been working 70-hour weeks to keep up my real estate business in Boston, driving her to appointments, taking care of her insurance paperwork, and paying for her prescription drugs. Nobody at the dining table was aware that last year, when her insurance refused to pay for specialized treatment, I had spent all of my funds. On the tape, my mother went on, "It's such a shame," as if she enjoyed the attention my aunts and uncles were giving her. To my dismay, I could hear my uncle and aunt laughing with her as she said, "All these grand dreams about becoming a nurse, and now she just sells houses to people who actually succeeded in life." Everything was captured via Emma's camera. I saw that she was shooting from her lap, most likely in an effort to remain discreet, while capturing her family's daily activities for her social media fans. My mother's statements were all the more upsetting because she was unaware that she was being filmed. Remember when she dropped out of nursing school? My mother asked my aunt. She came home crying about how hard the exams were. Pathetic. And now she acts like selling a house every few months makes her successful. In actuality, I had postponed my nursing studies just to assist her in her time of need. Even though I was earning a respectable living from real estate, every extra dollar I made went into her medical expenses rather than her education. My mother let out a dramatic sigh and reached for her glass of wine, the same wine I had bought for family dinners. "She just doesn't have what it takes," she said. "Some people just aren't cut out for real achievement." Emma finally turned the camera away after another agonizing minute of the live stream. As the harsh reality set in, I remained still in my hotel room, tears running down my cheeks. For years, I had convinced myself that my mother's sporadic, scathing remarks were simply her way of venting her frustration or her antiquated method of inspiring others. However, this was not a brief setback. This was her real self. There was now indisputable evidence. Emma texted me again, and my phone buzzed. "I'm so sorry that you had to witness it. It was too late for me to comprehend what she was saying. Would you like me to remove the video?" For a long time, I gazed at the message. I typed back, "No, go ahead and do it." "Tomorrow, I have to show you something." I returned. The following morning's travel from Providence was a haze. I hardly recalled the 2-hour drive home or checking out of the motel. My mother's laughter, as she made fun of the career I had developed to support her, kept playing over and over in my head. My life had taken a totally different turn 5 years prior. I was prospering at the age of 27, halfway through my nursing program. I had always aspired to become a nurse in order to serve others and change the world. Then came the call that made all the difference. Mom had been taken to the hospital after collapsing at work. Aggressive rheumatoid arthritis was the diagnosis, which would necessitate continued care and therapy. She had sobbed from her hospital bed, "It's not fair. How am I going to pay for all of this? Almost nothing is covered by the insurance." I had sworn to aid while holding her hand. "Mom, will work it out together." When I was in high school, my father died, so Mom and I had to rely on one another. I thought our relationship was important, even in spite of her critiques and sometimes harsh remarks. Growing up, she had made sacrifices for me by working extra hours and ensuring that I had chances. It was now my turn to take the initiative. In a matter of months, I decided to put my nursing studies on hold. Real estate offered the possibility of substantial income and flexible work schedules. I could take care of Mom, drive her to appointments, and still make enough money to pay for our expanding needs. It was meant to be short-term, only till she calmed down, only until I had enough saved up to go back to school. However, temporary became years. Although Mom's condition had improved as a result of the treatments, she still required costly prescription drugs, many trips to the doctor, and physical therapy. I would take over as her only healthcare manager, spending hours researching treatment alternatives, haggling with insurance companies, and keeping track of all bills and payments. In her rare moments of gratitude, she would sometimes remark, "You've become so responsible." I had been able to get through many long nights and demanding work weeks because to those remarks, after pulling into my driveway, I sat quietly. I hadn't informed Mom that I would be returning today. She believed that I was still in Providence, attending the conference to network with other realtors, but I had already canceled that plan after watching the video. It buzzed on my phone. Emma texted, "I'm at the Maple Coffee Shop. May meet at any time. You're prepared." I inhaled deeply and made an effort to arrange my ideas. I took out a folder called Mom Medical from my laptop bag. It contained a detailed account of all the payments I had made over the previous 5 years, including all insurance premiums, co-pays for prescription drugs, and doctor visits. All of them are listed with bank statements and receipts. For tax purposes, I had been preserving these documents. I never thought they would be used as proof of treachery. After gathering the folder and taking another deep breath to regain my composure, I texted Emma back. "Arrive in 15 minutes. Despite the crowded coffee shop, I quickly recognized Emma. Her vivid blue hair and large headphones made her stand out at 16. She wrinkled her face with guilt when she saw me. She exclaimed, "I'm so sorry," as I took a seat. I didn't know she would say those things. I was just doing my usual live stream thing, and then Aunt Diane started talking about you, and it got so mean and... "It's not your fault," I interrupted her digression. "Actually, I need to thank you." Emma appeared perplexed. "Thank you? For what purpose?" After setting the medical folder on the table, I opened it to find 5 years' worth of insurance letters, appointment schedules, and payment records. "For revealing the truth to me," I muttered. "I have been covering all of her expenses, including her prescription drugs, medical care, and insurance premiums. Everything." As Emma turned through the papers, her eyes grew wide. "This is thousands of dollars." "Actually, over $130,000, I attested. "I sacrificed everything for her, including relationships, savings, and my nursing degree. I put everything on hold because I believed she needed me." Emma's countenance changed from disbelief to rage as she looked up from the paperwork. "And she says, 'You're not good enough.' That is really messed up." I nodded as an eerie serenity descended upon me. I chuckled bitterly. I always believed that her criticism was her way of encouraging me, that underneath it all, she appreciated what I was doing. I guess I was mistaken. "Therefore, what will you do?" Emma inquired. As I talked, my decision solidified, and I reclaimed the folder. "I'm finished. I've already prepared the necessary documentation to delete my name from her accounts. You won't go up against her." I gave a headshake. What would the purpose be? She would simply say, "I'm being overly sensitive," or deny it. I opened my banking app on my phone after taking it out. In the hopes of eventually going back to nursing school, I've been setting aside a small amount of money every month. I'm going to use it for that very purpose now. I moved the money I had set aside for my mother's upcoming medical procedures into my own savings account. As I was speaking, even though the action was minor, it seemed enormous. Emma muttered, "Wow. Are you certain?" I answered, "I've never been more sure of anything," and I was surprised at how composed my voice sounded. "I've spent 5 years being her safety net while she dismisses everything I do." That ends today. I showed Emma my acceptance letter from the nursing program, which I had almost postponed once more due to Mom's scheduled medical procedures. I informed her that I begin in the fall, and I won't be deferring once more. Emma grabbed my hand as she reached across the table. "I'll email you the entire video in case you require it." I could feel the burden of years of commitment easing as we said our goodbyes. I was choosing myself for the first time in a long time. Instead of the shame I had anticipated, I felt a feeling of clarity and purpose that had been lacking for far too long. When I called the insurance company, the agent sounded perplexed. "You wish to take your place as Diane Sullivan's accounts guarantor. Could you tell me why?" I answered in a very steady voice, "Personal reasons. After this month, I will no longer be liable for any payments." Day 3 of my new resolution was upon me. I had been incredibly industrious over the weekend, changing payment details, writing emails, and phoning insurance providers. As I methodically disassembled the financial web I had built to support my mother, my dining room table was covered in documents. The agent went on, "Miss Sullivan, I should let you know that your mother's premium will go up significantly if you don't help. Her options for coverage could alter." I hesitated and said, "I understand. Would you kindly provide her home address with a formal letter outlining these changes? I want to make sure she knows everything there is to know." I was fully aware of what I was doing. In a week, the letter would arrive, allowing me to finish the rest of my preparations before the impending showdown. Since yesterday, my mother's messages have been ringing on my phone. She had anticipated me to take her to a doctor's visit that morning, but she had no idea what I was doing. I hadn't arrived. "You're where?" "It's been an hour since I started waiting." The office of the doctor called. My insurance card was denied. They said, "As soon as possible, fix it." "Are you not paying attention to me?" Said, "Pick up your fucking phone." Every message simply made me more determined. I put my phone on silent and went back to work. I had finished the most of the financial separations by the evening and had advanced to the following stage. I got my laptop open and started writing a single, well-crafted email that I would send to my entire extended family. Subject: update on the care of Diane Sullivan. To my family. After giving it some thought, I have decided to step down from overseeing my mother's financial assistance and medical treatment. I have paid for all of her medical bills for the last 5 years, which has come to more than $150,000. Insurance premiums, prescription drug prices, doctor visits, and various therapies have all been included in this. Although I made this decision for personal reasons, I wanted to let everyone know because my mother might need help in the future. A thorough summary of the assistance I've given throughout the years is attached. I hope this information is helpful if any of you want to assist. I want you to know that I did not make this decision lightly. Warm regards. S. I've included the spreadsheet I made, which details every payment, appointment, and hour worked. Taking care of her, the proof was indisputable. As promised, I received the entire Livestream footage from my cousin Emma. I downloaded it and saved 3 copies, one on a USB drive, one on my PC, and one on my cloud storage. Although I didn't have any definite plans for the video just yet, I had a feeling it could be required. I was startled when the doorbell rang. My mother was standing on my porch, her face twisted in rage, as I could see through the peephole. With my heart pounding, I took a step back. "Ed, I know you're in there. Open this door right now." I said nothing as I watched her shadow move under the door. "You've missed 3 of my calls. My medication refill was denied at the pharmacy. What are you doing?" I inhaled deeply before speaking firmly through the door. "I'm not doing this anymore, Mom. You'll be receiving information from the insurance company soon. I suggest you read it carefully." "What are you talking about? Open this door." "No." On my lips, the one word had a strong feeling. "I've heard what you really think of me. I think it's time we both moved on with our lives." Before she exploded, there was a minute of bewildered silence. "Is this about money? After everything I've done for you?" The irony almost made me laugh. "Goodbye, Mom. Please don't come back." I left the door as her complaint became more loud and went back to my laptop to complete the task at hand. I felt lighter with every stride, as like I was finally letting go of a weight I had been carrying for far too long. The consequences arrived quickly. After I sent my email, my phone was inundated with notifications within hours. My desertion shocked and appalled Aunt Lisa. Uncle Robert believed that I was being nasty and self-centered. Thomas, my cousin, suggested that I resolve any petty disagreement I was having with Mom. The only people who appeared to understand were Emma and, strangely, my old Aunt Helen. Bridget's message was straightforward. You have to have guts to defend yourself, my love. If you need anything, give me a call. First, I blocked my mom's number. I then muted each relative who didn't want to hear my side of the tale one at a time. The quiet that ensued was oddly tranquil. I completed my autumn re-enrollment 3 days later while sitting in the Boston City Nursing School admissions office, autumnal semester. After looking over my file, the advisor remarked, "Miss Sullivan, you haven't been involved in the program for a long time, but your previous academic record is strong. You'll need to take a placement exam to determine if any refresher courses are necessary." "I understand," I said with a jolt of enthusiasm. I've already started reviewing my old textbooks. I experienced a sense of belonging that had been lacking for years as I crossed campus afterwards. Pursuing my own goals, rather than living to satisfy the wants of others, was where I was supposed to be. I had already begun planning, but my real estate business would need to change to fit my class schedule. I would hire a part-time assistant to handle administrative duties, concentrate on higher-value homes, and work with fewer clients. Yes, the salary would be lower, but I could get by without my mother's bills. A formal-looking envelope was waiting for me in the mail when I got home. The insurance company's letter, which was meant for my mother but ended up at my address, was inside. It explained how her coverage had changed and how her premiums had increased significantly because I was no longer the guarantor. I ought to have felt bad. Rather, I felt validated. My phone rang. "Emma." Unpreambled, she asked, "Have you seen what's happening in the family group chat?" I said I left all those chats. "What's going on?" Emma's voice was strained as she said, "Your mom is telling everyone you've had some kind of mental breakdown. She's saying you've been under stress from your failing business, and that's why you're acting out." The air quotes were audible in Emma's speech. She's completely twisting everything around. Unsurprised, I sighed. Classic deflection. "That's not all," Emma added. She didn't realize I was still in the chat, and now she's convinced Aunt Lisa to let her move in temporarily until she sorts out her medical situation. Of course she has. I shook my head before responding. Mom's always been good at finding someone to rescue her. I hung up, opened my laptop, and was looking at the video clip that Emma had supplied me, the live stream that had made all the difference. Since that first heartbreaking viewing in my hotel room, I hadn't viewed it. I moved my finger over the play button. That recording had the ability to reveal to the world my mother's true self when she was not around, the ability to defend myself against her falsehoods. However, did I require that confirmation? Were the family members truly worth persuading to accept her account without even seeking my version of events? I didn't play the video before shutting down the laptop. If I ever needed the proof, I had it. But I had more essential things to think about right now. My application for a nursing position was finished. I had planned. For the first time in years, I was thinking about my future, rather than handling someone else's crisis as my placement exam approached. On my counter, the insurance letter served as a silent reminder of the adjustments I had made. After giving it some thought, I sent a fresh envelope to my mother's real address, put the letter inside, and wrote the following brief note. This was accidentally delivered to my address. I advise you to thoroughly read it. No signature, no feeling, just the facts. Another part of my load was lifted as I put the envelope into the mailbox. She now had to deal with the fallout from her actions, not me. There was a relative calm for 2 weeks. Between client appointments and real estate showings, I spent every free time studying in order to get ready for nursing school. With every practice test, my confidence increased, and the placement exam was set for Friday. The ambush followed. My mother and Aunt Lisa were waiting next to my mother's car in the parking lot when I noticed them in my rearview mirror after wrapping up a showing of a three-bedroom colonial in Brookline. My initial reaction was to drive off. However, they had obviously noticed me. The inevitable would only be delayed by running. I inhaled deeply before getting out of my automobile. With a sickly sweet voice, my mother said, "Synod, we must speak." I could see the stress on her face up close. She leaned heavily on her cane, a prop she usually reserved for situations where she wanted to draw attention to her condition, and her hair was left unstyled. "I have nothing to say," I answered, gripping the keys firmly. Aunt Lisa took a position. "See, your mom is having a hard time. She can no longer schedule appointments with her experts, and the cost of her medications has risen. Did you wish for that?" I carefully stated I wanted to be treated with basic respect and appreciation. Acknowledgement for 5 years of sacrifice was what I desired. What I desired was a mother who didn't disparage me behind my back as a desperate failure. My mom's face went white. "What are you discussing?" "Mom, I watched the video, the live stream of Emma from the family meal." I slowly looked into her eyes. "Everything you said about me was heard." Her expression briefly changed from one of recognition to protective rage. "You're misrepresenting the facts. Everyone does that, so I was simply letting off a little frustration." Aunt Lisa appeared perplexed. "Which video? What's she talking about, Diane?" The irony almost made me laugh. In the likely hope that I wouldn't find out, my mother hadn't even mentioned the broadcast to her closest friends and family. I told my mother, "If you want, show her the video. Or don't. Nothing changes as a result. I've already decided." My mom changed her strategy. Her voice cracked. "Synad, I am your mother. How can you leave me when I need you the most, after all I've done for you?" I felt something crack within me. Resentment that had been bottled up for 5 years finally came to the surface. "What have you done for me?" With incredulity, I repeated, "Allow me to explain what I have done for you." Even though my voice was trembling now, it remained steady. "I put everything in my life on hold. I paid over $130,000 for your treatment. I handled all of your prescriptions, fought with insurance companies on your behalf, and drove you to all of your appointments. You called me pitiful in return. You made fun of my career, which I created just to help you." My speech remained firm despite my shaking palms. "I sent evidence to," I went on to say, "everyone in the family, every payment, every appointment, every sacrifice. Therefore, don't stand there and pretend that I'm the antagonist in this tale." Aunt Lisa's gaze had changed, with uncertainty beginning to appear on her face. Slowly, she replied, "Diane, what was in this video exactly?" Ignoring her, my mother directed her desperate attention toward me. "I apologize if I offended you," she replied in a brittle voice, "but this is a drastic overreaction. I have significant health issues." "I understand," I said coolly, "and I've been there for you 5 years straight. It's another person's turn now." I looked across to Aunt Lisa. "You mean she's now living with you? Has she yet asked you for money? How many times have you taken her to doctor's appointments? You picked up how many prescriptions?" Aunt Lisa's quiet was plenty. I turned back to my car and remarked, "That's what I thought. I hope the best for you two, but I will no longer be coerced. This is not the end." My mom contacted me once I got there and said, "You can't just leave your family." I put my hand on the car door and paused. "Mom, you're correct about one thing. Family does not abandon family. However, family members also don't undermine one another. Family does not exploit those who care about them. Perhaps you should consider who actually left first." I climbed into my vehicle and drove away. Clearly reprimanding Aunt Lisa for something, I could see my mother making furious gestures in the rear-view mirror. I reasoned that some things never change. However, I came to another realization as I made my way home to finish my nursing exam preparation. I no longer felt guilty. I felt free for the first time in years. The last 3 months were filled with a lot of activities. I restructured my real estate firm to fit my new schedule, enrolled in the expedited program for students returning to school, and aced my nursing placement exam. While I was in class, I employed Kylie, a talented college student, as my part-time assistant to manage paperwork and schedule showings. The changeover wasn't smooth. Late nights, schedule issues, and the rare moment of self-doubt were all part of the experience. But every little triumph, every client served, every quiz passed, every peaceful moment confirmed that I had made the right decision. I no longer had to bear the burden I carried for years. I started each day with a fresh sense of purpose and enthusiasm. The state of my family has come to an uncomfortable standstill. It seemed that my mother had revealed her actual nature to Aunt Lisa after our altercation in the parking lot, and she discreetly contacted me a week later. Over coffee, she confessed, "I had no idea what you'd been dealing with. Diane informed me that you were being obstinate and self-centered. I ought to have gotten your version of events." I said it's okay, and this time I meant it. I answered, astonished at how deeply I meant it. Mom has always been adept at managing the story. I hadn't been very interested in the Boston Real Estate Association's annual awards presentation in the past. I hadn't been able to attend industry events since I was too busy taking care of my mother. However, I was moved when my broker nominated me for the Resilience in Real Estate Award, which honors agents who overcome major obstacles while continuing to operate their businesses. During our weekly workplace meeting, my coworker Jeffrey claimed that you were guaranteed a spot. Since beginning nursing school, you have closed more deals than any other employee in the office. I'm not sure what resilience is if that isn't it. Although I didn't anticipate winning, I was excited for the ceremony because it would be an opportunity to recognize my accomplishments on both a personal and professional level. On the night of the event, I was in a hotel ballroom with Boston's real estate industry all around me. For my first non-work-related indulgence in years, I wore a dark blue dress that I had purchased especially for the event. I reconnected with industry acquaintances I hadn't seen in a long time, and mixed with coworkers after snatching a glass of champagne from a passing waiter. "Sadie Sullivan," a recognizable voice shouted out. I turned to see one of Boston's most accomplished brokers, Margot Stevens. "I hoped you would be here. Regarding your efforts in the Brookline market, I've been hearing nothing but positive things." We discussed current real estate trends, and I was completely involved in the discussion, which was a pleasant break from the preoccupied, overburdened person I had been for so long. In my handbag, my phone began to vibrate. At first, I chose to ignore it and remain in the moment I was having fun. A minute later, it vibrated once more, so I excused myself and took a quick look at the screen. I missed 5 calls from an unknown number. Additionally, one text message: "Uncle Mark is using Uncle Emma's phone. An emergency. Give me a call back as soon as possible." I felt a knot in my stomach. I answered the phone as I entered a silent hallway. "What's going on, Emma?" Emma's voice was strained as she replied, "I'm so sorry to bother you. Your mother and I are in the hospital. They believe she may have fallen because of her new medication. She is requesting you." I shut my eyes and waited for the recognizable rush of responsibility and remorse to overwhelm me. It arrived, but now it was different. Controllable. "Not too much. Is she steady?" I inquired. "Indeed. She is being held overnight for observation, though." Uncle Mark insisted on calling, even though I didn't want to. Before I heard the sound of the phone switching hands, I heard muffled voices. A harsher of her voice said, "This is Patrick. Look, I understand that things have been tough, but you are needed by your mother. We are unable to respond to the doctor's inquiries regarding her medical history." I watched the attendees of the event making their way into the main ballroom as he was speaking. "Soon, the awards presentation will begin." I made my choice and said I understand. "However, I'm currently at a significant work function. I can visit the hospital later." "We're talking about your mother," Patrick said in a stern voice. Any party you're at can wait, surely. The previous SED would have given in right away, putting her mother's wants ahead of her own. However, I was no longer that person. I confidently stated, I'll be there in about 2 hours. Tell the doctors that I'll be available to answer any queries then. I also want to thank Patrick for supporting her. I hung up the phone and inhaled deeply. I saw my image in a decorative mirror as I turned to re-enter the ceremony, shoulders back, head up, eyes clear. I recognized myself for the first time in a long time. Also, the Resilience in Real Estate Award recipient is Sullivan. When my name was called, the entire room erupted in cheers. I sat stunned for an instant. To be honest, I hadn't anticipated winning. Jeffrey smiled widely as he pushed me with his elbow. With my heart racing, I got up and walked over to the stage. I went to the microphone, and the crystal trophy felt heavy in my hands. I saw competitors, mentors, and coworkers, all united in appreciation of my work, looking out at the audience. The confirmation was overwhelming. Thank you, I said, sounding more composed than I actually was. I can't adequately convey how much this means to me. Managing a hard profession and personal responsibilities has been difficult in recent years. There were numerous days when I questioned my ability to continue. I stopped, recalling the many evenings I had spent looking into my mother's therapy possibilities. After restless nights of anxiety, the early mornings are spent hurrying to get ready for showings. But selling houses isn't the only thing that real estate is about, I went on. Resilience is key, adjusting to shifting markets, conquering challenges, and coming up with solutions when they seem unattainable. Those same abilities enabled me to overcome personal obstacles and ultimately return to my first love, nursing. The discovery caused a murmur of interest among the gathering. I'm thrilled to be continuing to serve my real estate clients while also pursuing my nursing degree. Therefore, this award serves as a reminder that we can reinvent ourselves at any time in our lives, not just for professional resilience. I appreciate this honor. As I made my way back to my seat, I was greeted with embraces and handshakes from Jeffrey and our other coworkers. As the ceremony came to an end, a number of people who were sincerely curious about my unusual professional choice came up to inquire about my nursing courses. It was almost 9 o'clock by the time I looked at my phone once more. Uncle Mark missed 3 more calls. Emma also texted, she's steady. Go slow. With the trophy securely wrapped in my tote bag, I packed up my belongings, bid farewell, and made my way to my car. I utilized the 20 minutes it took to drive across town to the hospital to mentally prepare for the eventual confrontation. My mother was sitting up in bed when I got to the hospital room, appearing unusually awake for someone who had reportedly had a terrible medical emergency. Uncle Mark was sitting next to her in a visitor's chair, and Emma was standing clumsily close to the window. As I walked in, my mother finally spoke, her voice acrid. All right, it's kind of you to accommodate us in your hectic schedule. I put down my tote bag, revealing the trophy box's corner. Hi, Mom. As soon as my event ended, I arrived. How do you feel? What do you suppose my emotions are? I passed out. I might have perished. And you didn't care since you were too busy having fun. Uncle Mark, obviously uncomfortable, cleared his throat. According to the doctor, that was probably a side effect of the new drug. She should be well enough to return home tomorrow once the dosage is changed. I nodded while maintaining a neutral look. That's fantastic news. I'm relieved it wasn't more severe. My mother's expression twisted in annoyance at my composed manner. If you hadn't left me, this wouldn't have occurred. I have no need for my new insurance. These new doctors don't comprehend my illness as my specialists did, and I can't afford half of my prescriptions. I truly apologize for hearing that, I said. Getting used to new healthcare providers must be challenging. She appeared even more enraged by my cool-headed response. Do you have anything further to say? After all that you've done to me. I looked at Emma, who had a look of humiliation mixed with pity. She nodded subtly in support. I whispered, Mom, I helped you out for 5 years. To ensure you received the greatest treatment possible, I put my life on hold. For you, I did everything I could. I didn't flinch as I looked into her eyes, and you branded me a desperate failure in response. You made fun of the profession that funded your medical care. You made fun of my dreams. Uncle Mark scowled. Said, "What are you discussing?" Emma took a step forward. "Uncle Mark, watch the video." The live stream, Emma remarked, "I recorded it by accident at dinner a few months ago." "You weren't informed about that by Mom?" My mom's face went white. "That is wholly unrelated. CNOD is taking things out of context in order to defend her self-centered actions." I carefully placed the trophy on the bedside table after taking it out of my tote bag. The engraving was readily apparent when the crystal received the light. Sinead Sullivan, on resilience in real estate. I told Uncle Mark, "Tonight I won an award for continuing to run a profitable business in spite of major obstacles." I went on to say, "Those challenges included providing for Mom financially and medically for 5 years, while she disparaged my accomplishments behind my back." Uncle Mark's countenance changed from the trophy to my mother's guarded posture, and he began to understand. I went on, "I didn't come here to argue. I wanted to make sure you were okay, and I came because you needed medical information." "Mom, I don't wish you any harm. Never have I. I simply couldn't continue to give up my life for someone who didn't value it." There was silence in the room. My mother, for once, had no incisive response. No strategy of manipulation is prepared. She only gazed at the trophy, which was obvious evidence of the achievement she had so blatantly disregarded. I muttered, "I should go. Tomorrow I have an early class." I looked across at Emma. "May I offer to drive you home?" Uncle Mark was talking to my mother in a low, inquisitive voice as we were leaving the room. I was finally having the chat I had been avoiding for months. However, I wouldn't be the one battling for attention this time. After 3 months, as I gave my patient an IV, I stood in my immaculate white suit with steady hands. My nursing instructor saw my technique and gave me a sign of approval. "Well done, Sullivan. Your clinical expertise is developing swiftly." As I fastened the line, I grinned. "I'm grateful. Everything seems to be coming together at last." I went to my car after finishing my shift at the teaching hospital, stopping to look at my phone. The screen came alive with a text from Emma. "A professor's interview is going viral. Already 20K views." I shook my head in wonder and laughed. The Boston Medical Journal interviewed me last week regarding career changers who choose to become nurses later in life. How my experience in real estate had equipped me for the healthcare industry had piqued the interviewer's curiosity. As I had previously mentioned, both professions demand meticulousness, effective communication, and the capacity to support individuals during significant life changes. I had clarified, and both had taught me the value of boundaries, which are essential for all healthcare workers. My phone rang on the car's Bluetooth while I was driving home. An unidentified number. "Hey, this is Patrick." My uncle seemed uncertain in his voice. "Have you got a moment?" I stiffened a little. "Is everything all right?" "Indeed, all is well. He hesitated. "I watched your interview. It was incredibly motivating." "Thank you," I said, taken off by the praise. "Your mother also witnessed it," he said softly. I waited, anticipating hearing about her most recent grievance or critique. Although she didn't say much, Patrick went on, "I believe that seeing you in that nursing uniform gave her a sense of reality. You're actually doing it, becoming a nurse, as you've always desired." I let the car sit in my driveway as I took in what he had said. He filled the silence by saying, "I'm proud of you, Synod. And I apologize for not realizing what was going on sooner." The mere acknowledgement made me cry uncontrollably. "I'm grateful, Patrick. That is very significant." We hung up, and I took a moment to think about how much had changed in just a year. Now, the real estate prize trophy was on my mantle, next to my nursing textbooks, which served as tangible reminders of my past successes as well as my future objectives. I still didn't talk to my mother. However, that was all right. I no longer expected approval from someone who couldn't provide it. Rather, I discovered it in my own achievements, in the patients who expressed gratitude for my treatment, in the professional acknowledgement that confirmed my decisions. I grinned at the pile of nursing journals on the coffee table as I walked into my house, my haven. I would study tonight for the test the following week. Maybe give Emma a call later to catch up. Between courses tomorrow, I have 2 property showings planned. I had a full life, with a purpose, and mine alone. Although it wasn't essential to my pleasure, Patrick's phone call was a pleasant surprise. I was no longer defined by whether or not my mother ever accepted my choice. My path was mine again. My future. Most importantly, I feel good about myself. As I settled into study, I came to the realization that this was the biggest triumph of all. And that is the tale of how CD transformed suffering into power. Not by yelling or hatching schemes of retaliation, but by leaving, starting over, and deciding to put peace over resentment. Sometimes the most effective form of retaliation is simply living well, getting well, and refusing to let the malice of others define you. You're not alone if you've ever experienced betrayal or had to painfully set boundaries with family. Tell us about how you discovered your strength in the comments section. In your life, what does it mean to rise above? Let's have a conversation.